As we set out on this journey of self-realization and the understanding and the truth that you are God, there are a lot of things, a lot of challenges, a lot of struggles about this concept that I want to address. And three of them are really important to understand when it comes to this journey because they are going to come up and you want to be able to acknowledge exactly what they are when they come up. Because it is along this journey when you have the obstacles of old programming or ways of thinking or even other people really influencing or trying to interrupt this journey that you're on. And you have to be clear about these obstacles or these challenges so that way you know to really just take them in, acknowledge them, but more importantly, let them go. So here are the three hardest things about being God. The first one I find to be really interesting because it's the thing that most people address when it comes to this idea of accepting the fact that you are God. When we talk about accepting the fact that you are God, what we are talking about is confronting the ideas and the programming that was fed to you and encoded within you in your subconscious mind as a way of being in relationship to this idea of God. Essentially, we're taught that God is separate from us, that God is above us and we are beneath God, and there isn't a connection between yourself and God. The only references we have about possibly humans connecting directly with God is stories of Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or Moses. But when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to yourself, seems to be a big disconnection about who you are in relation to this idea of God and understanding that your consciousness is in fact the thing that defines God, the thing that creates God within your mind. Thus, it is through this understanding where I teach, it is you that is the creator of this idea of God. By that way, you are essentially God. It is your consciousness that creates everything around you. It is your consciousness that creates perspective, a viewpoint, the lens by which you experience and also create life, because the things that you experience in life, you interpret and add meaning to it. So that's the first thing, is accepting it, getting over these old programmings and these old understandings that have been embedded in your mind as far as who you are in relationship to God. The second thing a lot of people bring up, which I find fascinating, if you are to accept the reality that you are God, essentially you are taking fault or blame for everything that goes wrong in your life. And that is by no means the reality of defining and understanding the fact that you are God. So the second thing is taking responsibility over your life. What that essentially means is it's not about fault. It's not about taking blame for the things that happen in your life, especially those things that are, unfavorable, the things that we don't like, unpleasurable, the traumatic events or situations that's happened to us. It's not about taking blame for it, but it's about taking responsibility for your role, understanding the significance about who you are and how, when things apparently happen in your life, how you can show up in a more empowering way instead of taking more of a victim mentality about the things happening in your life. Also, there are many layers to why and how things happen in your life. We think more consciously when it comes to events happening, but there are many layers as to why it's happening. And it is my understanding that on a very spiritual level, we are causing these things to happen. We are creating these things to happen to us in order to awaken to the reality of who we are. So consciously, when we look at things at face value, we think, oh, that has nothing to do with me. That is just something that happened to me. And because it happened to me, then, I'm going to victimize and feel a victim because of this situation, and I'm going to just stay in this space with it. But in fact, it is your subconscious and even your superconscious that has created that situation in order to teach you a lesson, in order to wake you up to the reality of who you are. And that will look different depending on who you are or what the situation was that has happened. So it is up to you along your journey to actually dissect all of these events, all of these things, and understand the significance of why things happen. But more importantly, it's about taking ownership of your life and realizing that your life is in your hands. It's not in somebody else's hands. It's not in the universe's hands. It's not in some separate God, outside of yourself. It's not in their hands. Not in any other deity's hands but your own. You are the only God and deity that is responsible for the life that you have and the life that you want to live. So it's about taking ownership of that understanding. And the last thing that people have a hard time with understanding when they're on the quest or the awakening of understanding that you are God is taking yourself too seriously. Many people who realize the power of their consciousness and the power of who they are tend to fall in this space of being so serious about life and what it is that they are creating. Now, there is nothing wrong with taking this concept very seriously because it is serious. But also, when we take things so seriously, really what we're saying is there is a sense of feeling like we can make mistakes, feeling like we can do something wrong, feeling like we have to be perfect. When in fact, you cannot do anything wrong. You are already perfect. And therefore, you can relax in this space. You can relax in this reality and this ownership of understanding that you are God. Because there is no mistakes. There is simply the process of understanding how to create, how to materialize and manifest the things that you desire, understanding that whatever happens in your life is ultimately a byproduct of consciousness, your subconscious, your superconscious coming together, bringing forth and creating lessons and experiences for you to come to an awakening. And so this awakening process doesn't have to be something so serious and daunting, but in fact, it can be something very playful as well as challenging. So when you go on this journey, though it can be heavy, the idea of realizing that you are God and you are responsible for everything that happens, there is still a sense of relaxation and calm with the realization that though, yes, you can create whatever you want, and there are practices and understandings about this for you, but you can also relax. You can also be in a space of enjoyment of this process, of this understanding, of this realization. And when you come into that space, there is moments where you are serious, and there are moments where you are playful in the relaxation and the ownership of the fact that you can really make no mistakes. There are no mistakes. There are only lessons. There is only the process of the journey of understanding who you are with each step of the way. Now, as you come to realizing your godliness, realize that this is a process. We are here on this earth in this physical reality to come to this understanding. We've decided to come to this place to play this game of whether or not we can come here and realize who we truly are. And so as you take this journey, recognize the balance between seriousness, the balance between playfulness, the balance between ownership of who you are, the balance between taking responsibility for everything that you create and can create, and allow yourself to really sink in this concept of being God, because it's a beautiful, beautiful experience once you own it. And so I'll leave you with that. These things are things that you want to acknowledge, you want to think about, you want to contemplate. And as you do, it will open you up more to the reality, the truth of who you are. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.